Blog Talk Radio.
One of the national disgraces regarding the Vietnam War are the way our troops were responded to when they came back home. Vietnam Remembered Coming Home features first-hand accounts from those who were there. Let these stories serve as a reminder that we should never disrespect our troops again. You may hate the war, but respect the warrior. I'd like to thank John and David Penn, Michael and Darlene Surofsky, Chet Howard, S.K. Ofstad, Stephen Abbey Rizzo, Harry Marshall, Sean Johnson, and Bill and Mary Claire Amer for supporting my work and allowing me the opportunity to share these stories with you. God bless you guys. In regards to our Vietnam veterans, folks, please join with me in honoring and thanking them for their service to our country, lest they be forgotten. Welcome home.
Wore my dress green uniform for the first time with all my ribbons, and some hippie chick was spitting me in the airport. I just don't want that happening to people coming back. Fortunately, there were 4 or 5 other guys with me. We'd all grabbed a cab from the base to the airport. They grabbed me.
And it was just like that. 1 minute we were in a combat mission. The next minute they told us we're going home. And we went from combat to the real world in 2 days. And people called us baby killers, spit on us. And I thought what I had done was fight for my country.
We came home and were just put right in the street with a bunch of people that hated us. And like I say, you're living like that for a year, and then you come back here. Some of the guys still had Vietnam dirt under their fingernails sitting at the dinner table. They came home so fast. You know, we never had time to talk to anybody about it. That's what I drank and got in scrapes with the law. I was looking for that adrenaline rush. You know, I was looking for something to provide me for the way I was living for a year, and it's not there.
I hit Frisco, got off of the Mac airplane. When I came home, I changed into civilian clothes. In fact, the word was around with the troops. It wasn't official, but the word was around, don't travel in your uniform, which is, to me, shameful. I mean, I'm laying my life on the line and I can't wear my uniform, which I'm proud of, home on an airplane.
You can't believe that you was shedding blood 4 days before that, and then come back into a reality of the peacefulness that was around. I guess it's actually too peaceful, too quick was a big problem.
when we landed in the States and finally got back, there were protesters right there at the airport. They were calling us baby killers. But it was upsetting, though, that you could come back here doing what we did for our country, or what we thought was for our country, and for that country, to try to help those people. And then to have the people here treat you the way they did.
People need to know that we're humans, and we're your neighbor. And like when we come back, it was like, get the hell away from me, or spit in your face, or you're not going to wear that uniform to the baseball game, are you? And it was awful.
I didn't understand why people treated us the way they did, either with apathy or aggression. And I was so confused about it. And I wanted to talk to people, but nobody wanted to talk.
To be there and to do things for your country. What your country wants you to do, whether you're drafted or you join, whatever. You're doing what this country wants. And then to come back and what you go through when you come back, it's really sad.
It's special to Kay and me. It represents something in this country because nobody can shame me for being a Vietnam veteran. They're not going to do it.
A pretty good friend of mine just walked over and said, there's going to be a helicopter here in about 10 minutes. You're going to be on it. And I'm like, to go where? I mean, I'd been, a lot of times they'd tell me, get on a helicopter. Well, we wanted to go home. It was going somewhere else to help out somewhere, help some guys out that were in trouble. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you're going home. And I mean, it was just like going home. I'm going home. I mean, it stunned me for a minute, just like took me by surprise because I'm in the combat mode, I'm not in the going home mode. And I was trying to shake it off, Flew into the States, they flew us into Travis Air Force Base, Vacaville, California. And we're coming into Travis, and it was at night, and I could begin to see the coastline. And I was looking out the window, and for the first time in a long time, I could see red, orange, blue. You have no idea what that's like. All I've been seeing is green. There are no colors in the jungle. Men don't have red on them. They don't have blue on them or white on them or anything else that are those colors, because it gives your position away. It's just you become a target.
We landed at McCord Air Force Base south of Seattle, and we went up to Seattle, and we had a hard time getting a taxi cab driver to pick us up. Once we got to the airport, everyone just really treated us like we were criminals or had a disease.
We couldn't even go through the terminal. So we had to be, and I was very puzzled then. We all were. We said, what in the world? We couldn't understand this. We didn't do any of that stuff. We didn't know what all went on when we were over there. We were just doing what we were told to do and trying to stay alive so we can come back home.
We were just an individual American soldier. Thought we were doing right. Joined the service and told to do a job. We would come back and the public was against us. Only for something that we were trying to do, and it was our country. Once we went to get off the plane and go through customs, that's when we saw the protesters and could hear them screaming, and their signs and everything else like that.
I don't know. I really have no idea what started all of it, what turned our society against us. But I know it was 22 years, 6 months, 3 days, and 12 hours after I got back that somebody congratulated or told me thanks for going to Vietnam. That's a long time to live with something you're ashamed of. Or to be ashamed of something you've done that you thought was the highlight of what you do in your lifetime.
There's going to be much changes as far as attitude of people towards me coming back from Vietnam, and exactly how I'm going to react to what's going on back in the world right now as far as demonstrations.
Oakland airport on the way back, and I can't tell you, Larry, how excited I was to land in America, and a woman spit on me.
Some folks, well, it wasn't very popular war. It's like when we came back. I was on aboard ship. We were coming underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and they were throwing garbage on us. Welcome home.
We came back. There was no hero welcome. There was nothing. I flew into Seattle, Washington, and his wife came over and gave me a hug and said, "Thank you." And that's what you were missing from the whole equation.
We were sort of treated as fools. I know I was. When I came home from Vietnam, it was a no-talk rule almost. We didn't get the parades. We didn't get the attaboys and the folks at home. If anything, people seemed to be ashamed of us as veterans, and that made us feel ashamed.
And they would literally spit on you and curse at you and throw things at you. That's a wrong thing to do to somebody who just came back from a combat zone.
When I landed in Oakland, California, as soon as I got through clearance, my uniform went away. I got into civilian clothes. I went from being a soldier right to being a student at the University of Wyoming, and there was a lot of protests and things going on at that time, and I basically hid because I didn't want to be a part of that because I didn't know what I would do. There was a long period of my life that nobody knew I was a Vietnam veteran, And I did not want anybody to know, because if I was confronted with some of that stuff, I just wasn't sure. When you're in combat, you find out what you can do, and then you take that back to civilian life, and you know in your mind what you're capable of doing. I think you have to find a way not to cross that line, and the only way I could not cross that line was to stay hid. When I came back from Vietnam, I took my uniform off. I walked around in civilian clothes. Any chance I got, I put civilian clothes on, not the military, because people hated us, especially if you were in Vietnam.
When you got home from Vietnam, you couldn't wait to take your uniform off, put it in the closet, and forget about it, and that was it. Well, they're more secretive. They don't like to talk about it because they were damn near crucified, when they came back, just for doing their duty,
But I did have people, want to get in my face and call me all kinds of different names and everything. And I just, at that point in time, I was looking forward to going to my family as soon as I could. So I ignored the best I could. I just put it in deep inside of me and walked off and ignored them as well as they, so they couldn't ignore me. I was proud of what I did, and I will remain proud as long as I'm alive, and I hope my family will remain proud of it.
National disgraces that we have in regards to the Vietnam War was the way the troops were responded to when they arrived back home. But we hopped on a plane 3 days later. You were from a combat zone into civilian life where no one really understood war, and in reality, they didn't know how to approach it. So they didn't ask you questions. You didn't talk about it. And so it was as if, hey, I went to the beach. I'm back. And I think that allowed a lot of the stress and experiences to be bottled up for years for some of our troops. They just did not have a opportunity to talk about it. People just did not want to talk about the Vietnam War. You came back into a community and you were a Vietnam vet, and and there was no real time in the Vietnam War for de-stressing.
World War II guys, when that war ended, they were still over there for probably 6 months before they started shipping them home. They had a chance to talk to each other and talk some of this out, and then they're on a boat, and they have all that time to talk to somebody, and then they, come back here, and hell, they're even still having reunions today talking about it. But we didn't have that.
I think we faced a big challenge of the people not being on our side when we come back. And they were name-calling us, baby killers, spitting on us. We didn't have the glory that any other war has had. There was so much hate about Vietnam veterans that we were the cowards for going. The heroes stayed home.
Each one of us was asked to do something. We did our job. And don't look at us like we're criminals or things, which there are people that have hard times and they got bad things that happen to them. But don't put them down in the dirt when they don't deserve it. I do not believe no man that's walked in Vietnam should be in the dirt.
I have a good friend that was told when he came home that his parents wanted him to go to church with them. And they said, don't wear your uniform. We don't want people to know that you're coming home. And he said that really hurt him. We just kind of went into a shell, I think, after that. People just didn't want to talk about Vietnam.
When I got out, I just wanted to run. I just, like Forrest Gump, just run. But I ran in the corporate world and just kept so busy, and family and kids. I just never, I guess it was kind of, let's push it aside and do something else. I don't know.
Right, they're dead. There was 4 letters in the alphabet that no one ever heard of at that point, and it was PTSD. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, didn't exist when I came home, and I was fully immersed into it. And back in those days, they just told you to get it together. You're home now. Get your life together. You don't even have to think about it anymore. It wasn't that easy. I was in bad shape when I came home.
Post-traumatic stress to me was some phrase that was used by guys. I really didn't know what it was, what it meant. I kind of had an idea, but it looked like it was, to me, it looked like it may be some kind of an excuse of some type. I don't mean to be cynical, but that's how it looked to me. Now, I have a son who's in the Marine Corps. He's been in the Marine Corps 16 years. And when he came home, the Marine Corps has a policy today that they didn't have back in the 60s, and they call it deflating. And deflating means that you come back, and for a couple of weeks before you get turned loose on the streets of your old neighborhood, you got to spend time with doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists and so forth to sort of deflate you, let the bad air out, I guess. And he was talking, and he was talking about his experiences, and they kind of suggested that he had some serious PTSD. And he called me up on the phone that night, and he says, they've determined that I have PTSD, Pop. He says, but I think you ought to see somebody at the VA about it. I said, why? He says, you have the worst PTSD I've ever seen.
Now looking back at it in the last 6 years, I have, if you didn't show me what it was, then I wouldn't know. But, 2 marriages, my time drinking, drugs, the short-term memory is just like it's killing me. I just joke about it. So in some ways there is a possibility, and I've heard it before, you could have PTSD, but you have it under control. PTSD doesn't mean that you're out of control all the time.
It is a real thing, especially when they discuss your past after returning from Vietnam, some of the things you do. My involvement with alcohol was horrible. I don't like to brag about it. That's not bragging, but I don't mind talking about it if it's going to help somebody else. I had a very bad temper. So these things were manifestations of PTSD.
And most of us, especially Vietnam, had pushed it way down, but it's not gone. It's always there. And given the right moment, it will come back up.
We was uneducated. The Vietnam War, they didn't educate us on anything. All we had to do was go out and kill the enemy. But we brought the enemy back here. And I'm talking about the Agent Orange. When they sprayed it, it had to be a rainy day because during the monsoon it rains. So it had to be close to the monsoon where it would stop. And that next day or a couple of days, the vegetation would just cook up like somebody had just put them in the oven and cook it. And there was a lot of areas that we was in.
We saw it all over. We saw it down south where I was initially. We saw it up near the forest near Camp Evans. It was all over. You could see it on the leaves of the vegetation like a powder of some sort. It's left its mark on me. I've had cancer from related to Agent Orange, and it's actually, I don't think there's one person in Vietnam that it hasn't affected because it was all over and it doesn't dissolve. Once it's in the fat of your body, it's there. It's a dioxin.
Many of us are Marine Corps. Many of us soldiers. Many of us that fought in Vietnam. We have to continue fighting.
When we came home, we were the losers that lost the war. That's how they treated us. And I think that's one of the reasons, or the main reason, we didn't speak about it for so many years.
How did I feel when I came back from Vietnam? First of all, I was ecstatic that I was coming home. It was great. Getting off the plane and seeing my wife and then seeing other friends. But it was then I got a sense of embarrassment. You were looking at people, or people were looking at you, and later on, I would hear the word, baby killer, druggie, and it was depressing. It was not, I didn't expect to come home and march down the streets of New York with a ticker tape parade. I thought that would happen at some point at the end of the war, and people would have a parade. Never happened.
I immediately, upon coming home, was faced with some interesting scenarios right off the bat. Getting on the plane at Seattle, Tacoma, to come back to New York. I bought myself a first-class ticket, $180. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in full uniform, proud of myself, proud of my service. No sooner got on the plane than a stewardess was asked, what is that soldier doing in first class? She was very nice. She asked me for my ticket, and she said, you just relax now, and we'll get you a drink, and don't bother about him. And she went back to that gentleman, who was only a couple of seats away. Why he didn't ask me, I don't know. And said, sir, that young officer probably just stepped out of the jungles of Vietnam. If you bother him, he'll probably kill you. And if he doesn't, I will.
The big one for me is don't blame the warrior. We were young kids. We're going to get sent to where we're going to go where we're sent, and we're going to do our job. And when we came home, we were sort of blamed for the politics of the war along with everybody else.
I never spoke out about the war in Vietnam, ever, because I left too many friends behind that were alive, and too many of them were killed. I couldn't do that.
We fight the war. We fight it to the best of our abilities. I don't think we ever lost the battle in Vietnam, but we lost the war. It wasn't the soldiers' fault. And for soldiers coming home to be stigmatized, I don't know that it'll ever happen again, but I know it happened to me. And if anyone should learn by anything about Vietnam, is never to blame the soldiers, because they're doing exactly what they're told to do, and they're doing it well, with honor. That's it.
I would like to say, for those who are serving our military, and the civilians here in our country, think first of these people that's defending our nation. You have to reach out to all of them. Give them a welcome home. Vietnam, we didn't get that welcome home.
Those they send to fight the battles for this country do so in an honest, meaningful way. They join the service as a sense of commitment to their country. They're not political. They go where they're told. They do what they're told. and they fight hard, and they give. And the giving doesn't stop after they get home. So if you're going to do it the right way and honor these veterans.
And that's a strange thing in war. It is such a desolate feeling if you happen to get trapped out by yourself somewhere and you're being shot at and there's nobody there to help you. As a matter of fact, I openly said, "Mother, please help me." That's how bad it was.
It's there's days yet that I don't want to have any connection with humans at all. I have nothing to do with them. I have certain places where we live now, and I had places where we lived before, that if I want to get away from it, I could go to those places in the woods and I could put my hands up and scream as hard as I could scream to try and get this devil off of my back.
An epic thing is happening amid the crumbling and burning walls of the compact town above the surly green waves of the Adriatic. Western Canadian troops got into the outskirts today.
Can you tell me about Ortona? Oh, Ortona, yeah. Ortona was only a town on the east coast of Italy of no particular importance. I'm never quite sure why the Germans decided to make a stance there, but they did.
The Ortona troops were a bit cocky and said, as they went in, "We'll have Ortona for you in the morning." They got the shock of their lives. They didn't realize the kind of troops that the Germans had in there. They had their best airborne troops in against us.
And I don't think he was one of those buggers under 6 foot tall. They had the great big leather boots up there. They were vicious. They weren't human.
Our fine troops found themselves facing a parachute division, a formation of savage, cunning young zealots, as good as anything the warrior Germans ever produced.
Wir waren Fallschirmjäger. Wir mussten dahin, wir waren eine Elitetruppe. Wir waren gefürchtet. Wir waren von den Alliierten gefürchtet. Wirklich wahr. Als grüne Teufel genannt, ne? Ich weiß nicht, ob Sie das wissen. Wir waren die besten Soldaten der Welt, waren die Fallschirmjäger.
Well, day one was to get from this side of the street over to that side. For what reason, I don't know why we had to get from here to there, because to me it all looked the same going up houses on both sides.
Hatten wir vorher, wir wussten, dass die Kanadier kommen und wir wussten auch, dass wir Ortona nicht halten können.
Up on top of that, and they're looking down on you, and if you get out in the open, you're dead.
Don't buy another pair of glasses until you've seen what this new invention can do. These self-adjust.
And now in Ortona, the action is as fierce perhaps as modern man has ever fought. Western Canadian troops and tanks are fighting a vicious street battle against Germans who contest every window and every yard with cunning skill and desperate courage.
You couldn't stick your head out in the open.
They had you covered. That's why we ended up mouse holing.
Well, mouse holing, most of those houses were all joined together. And with the butts of our rifles, we would bang and bang on the walls till you opened a hole, and then we just tossed the grenade in.
Man kann sich das gar nicht so erklären, wie schnell das geht. Ruckzuck. Manche sind aus dem Fenster rausgesprungen, was auf halber Höhe war, um bloß nicht erschossen zu werden. Und dann sind manche wieder aus dem Fenster gesprungen, weil unten die Kanadier ausreißen wollten.
Sometimes when possible, we'd use the anti-tank gun and blow a big hole in and then just go from room to room.
You know, and just somebody else will come along and clean up the bodies, and you just keep on going.
You know, you see a guy all bleeding and wounded and shot up, or his guts hanging out. You just forgot about fear or stress or anything. You just went out and you tried to go and save him. This is that's what I joined up for, and this is what we done.
In the command post, Captain Vic Soler of Upton said something that sent a thrill down my spine. He pointed at two lightly wounded men and said, "Those two men and several other wounded have disobeyed orders. They refuse to evacuate. They don't argue, they refuse." One of them said, "Sir, we are going to see this thing through to the end."
In the town of Ortona, let's say, first day you lose 30 men, they're replaced, you're still standing there. The next day or the next night you lose 20 or 30 or however many, you're still standing there. I've done this for 23 months. So you can imagine how I felt. You know, your luck just keeps running out, and you're down to the last breath of air, and you're still standing. And I would like an answer to that.
Lake Stalingrad, and through the same apocalyptic pall of smoke and fire and maniacal determination. The battle has this quality of nightmare, and the rattling hurricane of the machine guns never stops.
Nobody could move. It was one of Hitler's last stands in Italy. He told his troops that you fight until the end. I know you just keep wondering, in the name of God, is this ever going to stop? You know, when will it stop?
It was one of the most fearsome battles you've ever seen. One of our boys his leg was shot up real bad, just hanging there. So I run over and I try to get a field dressing on him, and I'm tearing away at his pants and whatnot. And Dr. Granger come over and says, Rudy, quickly get your jackknife out. I got it out, and I thought you meant to cut the rest of his pants away so we could get out of his wounds. Oh, he said, cut the rest of his leg off. It was horrible.
The square was the killing ground. In the morning, when we stepped out, the sergeant told us to step out and have a look, but don't go too far. But when we did get out and looked, what I saw was a dead German lying there with no head, and right beside him was a big donkey. It was puffed up ever so big, but that head thing bothers me because it wasn't there, and I seem to dream that I wonder what he looked like. I don't know what happened to the head. I don't know. And that still, to this day, sticks in my brain.
It was a maelstrom of noise and hot, splitting steel. Canadian-German machine guns were erupting at once, but it sounded like hundreds. If it wasn't hell, it was the courtyard of hell.
Das muss man mitmachen, sonst kann man das gar nicht so menschlich erklären. Also das ist fast unmöglich. Man muss das mitmachen und erlebt haben, wie das ist, wenn einem der Tod im Nacken sitzt. Da haben sie unheimliche Kräfte. Sie entwickeln einen Mut. An Tod denken sie gar nicht. Sie wollen nur weg oder...
I remember for this one incident, a German machine gun setting up on one of the higher mounds of rubble in the street, and the machine gunner was just a kid, and he got hit in the face, and his eyeballs were hanging on his cheeks. Corporal Squires, he could speak German, he hollered for him to give up. He says, "Come and get me," and just stuck the machine gun like that until he ran out of ammunition. That's what they were like. He was about 17 years old.
Did you shoot him?
Yeah. I didn't, but yeah, he was shot. Because even though he's blind, he's still pouring the lead at you.
Discover the past with exclusive military history documentaries and ad-free podcasts presented by
and both Dr. Anderson. They say, well, we can't help him, so just give him a couple of shots of morphine and go and bury him. And we done that. And I know I buried some Germans that they weren't even dead yet. We just threw them dug a little bit of a grave and threw some ground over them.
They weren't even dead?
Well, you have to give them a couple of shots of morphine. But they're out. You don't know whether they're dead or not, but they're going to die anyway with lung shots.
Did it disturb you?
Oh, yes, it did disturb. I still get nightmares over that. This is why I haven't talked about it for years and years. I was trying to avoid to have these memories come back.
It is Christmas Eve. There is still the hardest of fighting in the streets of Ortona. Each day, we thought the bloody combat would become less intense. Each day, it became more intense. The enemy would not break.
Ortona was just about blown to rubble. On the 24th of December, the Germans blew up St. Thomas Cathedral. There was hundreds of Italians taking shelter there. They drove them out onto the streets before they blew it up. There was no Christmas truce there at all.
Christmas Day. I am speaking now from this Canadian field dressing station, not many miles behind the front, where Canada is fighting one of the greatest battles of our history on Christmas Day. Just near me are some Canadian soldiers in the ward who are going to sing carols for the benefit of the wounded. They're just starting to sing.
And the one interesting part that I found amazing is that General Volks, who was commanding 1 Div, decided that his people were going to have Christmas lunch, war or no war. And we had captured a big church on our way into Ortona, and he brought all his cooks and his kitchens up there, and he made Christmas lunch.
The Christmas dinner, it started at 11 o'clock, December the 25th. They held in a little church. They called one company in at a time. They'd have dinner, and the pipe major
Essen would blow the bagpipes, and they'd have the organ playing, and they'd be having carols and whatnot, and they'd have a great dinner, all the food you could eat.
I don't know how they brought it up. They must have come as far as they could with a jeep, and then they carried it in containers. It was warm, and I'm not sure if it was beef or pork, but it was warm, meat and gravy and potatoes and one bottle of beer.
Was the Christmas dinner within range of the German gun?
Oh yes. You still the German guns the shells are still breaking all around the Germans. The 88 guns are still lobbing their shells into Ortona. Yes. I never took part of it because we were too busy picking up the wounded.
Were your thoughts about Christmas that day?
No. I thought about staying alive. I realized it was Christmas Day, and I suppose for this film, I might as well add, I actually shot a German on Christmas Day. And at the time, it was just another day, and he was just another enemy.
Was he down on the square?
He was down on the square coming towards the building that I was in.
Did you kill him?
I don't know. He dropped, and two guys ran out and dragged him back, and I held my fire. And, at that time, I was just doing my job. It was just another day. But I kind of hate to talk about it now.
Why?
It was Christmas, I thinking about it now, I should have taken my chances and let him go because, it just bothers me because I'd killed somebody on Christmas Day or wounded somebody. I don't know if he was wounded or killed. I have no idea, but just the thought of me doing that is kind of upsetting. Very upsetting, as a matter of fact, but when I talk to kids, sometimes I cry still.
At 8 o'clock this morning, there was a strange silence. The colonel grinned when I came in. I said, "Don't tell me." And he replied, "Yes, I think we've got Ortona."
Wir mussten dann aufgeben, weil die Übermacht war zu groß. Und da war es vorbei, ne? War Ortona gefallen. Dann Ende Dezember sind wir alle ab. Da haben wir Ortona aufgegeben. Da war es aus.
Everything was dead silent. What a feeling to hear that nothing, just dead silent. It's hard for you to gather all these thoughts. All of a sudden, everything just comes to a standstill. It was a pleasant feeling. What a relief. Everybody is tired, and you've been going straight for 8 days, day and night.
I don't know where the people that lived in Ortona, I have no idea where they went. But I know that the day that they pulled out of there, German pulled out, that they were coming in from the caves that they had dug in. And I always remember one woman carrying a little baby just born, I presume, into a piece of burlap, carrying it out of this cave. And they were all asking for food, and we never had food to give them, so they suffered too. Population, the poor.
For the dead of Ortona, the bell of its cathedral, the Cathedral of St. Thomas the Apostle's home. For the Canadians who died in taking the town, for the Germans who fell defending it. And for the dust and ashes of the cathedral itself, the bell tolled. For the living as well, the bell tolled, calling them to prayer, to feast.
I have nights where I dream that I go back to Ortona and saw this German going with these long winter coat on. There's 3 guys. They tried to get me, but they haven't got me yet.
When you die, you go to another life. Maybe heaven, maybe purgatory, maybe hell. These are the kind of questions that make us puzzle profoundly about our existence. Death is not the end of consciousness. We talk so much about our conquest of nature, our mastery of space, our subjection of the physical world. The negative
You could see the flames shooting out of some of the tanks that had been already hit, and if you couldn't actually see the tanks, you could see the smoke going up in the air. It was a scary scene to hear those tanks blowing up and the flames shooting up in the air, the sparks flying out of them. It was pretty awesome.
You go up in these tanks have been knocked out, burned. The tanks are still hot and warm and smelly and smelled of flesh and everything else. And you got to get inside the tanks, and then they get these clumps of mass of blood and uniforms and stuff like that, and hand these bodies out that to be identified and buried, and that's a horrible bloody job.
Which place is a good place to die? Definitely not a tank.
It was not tank country. Italy is in the shape of a shoe, and there are mountains running right down the middle. Every 3 or 4 miles was another river that we had to fight our way over. Very, very rough, bad country for tanks.
We found canals, we found ditches, we found vines, we found rivers. Never did we find tank country.
This is Peter Strasberg of the CBC reporting from the Italian front.
After the Canadian Corps broke through the Adolf Hitler line and the firm base was established, the regiment was ordered to drive through, seize and hold the crossings of the Delta River, the key to the situation.
Before we were all ready to go, I would sit in the turret, open a can of bully beef, and have breakfast and wash it down with rum, because I always had a lot of rum around. And I would be scared. I knew it was coming, and I knew I might be dead. I knew my tank might go. And I would try to tell funny stories over the microphone to my men. Even if they weren't funny, they'd laugh because they were as uptight as I was.
We were Sherman tanks. The American tank weighs 31 tons. Not nearly armored as well as the German Panzers or Grenadiers. Our shells would just, armor-piercing shells would just bounce off a Panther attack, but we moved quickly.
Fighting a tank is complicated. There's no one tank man. There's 5 tank men, and they've got to work together, and they've got to learn to do it, and they've got to live together, and they become almost like brothers. They have to.
I would say we were quite close, but they also kept changing too. I've had a lot of them die.
We went into action about 6 o'clock in the morning. Sun was, this was May, the sun was up early. And we started to head for the next river, which the Germans were behind, as always.
When we got to the Amelpha, we were pinned down. And so Lieutenant Ed Perkins took his tank across the Amelpha River. And he got into a position where we were heavily outnumbered by German troops and German big tanks, the Panthers and the Tigers. And he was wounded, I think, twice. Twice the colonel told him to evacuate, and he said, "No, I'm staying."
We're now on the north bank of the Amelpha, and our tanks are in a hull-down position. There was a considerable amount of tank fire. In the meantime, Perkins was going back and forth up and down the bank, and no doubt he's looking for places that he can put the Westminsters when they arrive. Unfortunately, the Westminsters didn't arrive until 2 hours after we got there. 2 hours. So Perkins thought, and it was a good idea, that we should fire off all of our ammunition that we had. Let the Germans give the impression that we had a strong force. So we'd fire Piet, 5.0 machine gun, Bren guns, the 3.0 Zenith, and fire them out in front of the German tanks and infantry to have them think that, man, those guys are some force. And it worked. At least I guess it worked, because some of us are still here. The night of the Amelpha River and the next morning, and total we lost 25 guys in 24 hours.
Perkins and his crew established a bridgehead across the river that enabled us to break the line and go forward. Bud McLean was part of the group with Perkins that grabbed and held the side of the river, which they both won. Perkins won a medal, and so did Bud McLean, the MM, for holding that position. But our worst part of the Amelpha River was that following day.
There was a good deal of haze between the Amelpha and the Leary from the smoke of battle, but I could make out some movement on the road. Spread over the green countryside were Canadian tanks, and some were moving forward as there were handkerchiefs of dust clinging to them.
May 24th was the day of the Amelpha River. We pulled back May 25th. We were not seasoned veterans. We all pulled our tanks back and parked them near each other and jumped out of the tanks to see who was hit and who was alive and so forth. And unbeknown to us, there was a German with a radio not far away and brought Nebelwerfers, as they were called, and brought them right down on our tanks. So they found me in a field. I got out of the tank, evidently, and was wandering around. I can't remember exactly what happened. I was in a field somewhere, and the tanks were burning up. We lost 26 men. I'm the only one alive from my troop. The tanks brewed up.
They call for stretcher bearers, and you have to go out there, whether the shells are bursting or the bullets are flying. This was their job, and there was very few of us that could do it. A lot of the other boys, when they're firing, the shells are firing, they wouldn't dare go out. I volunteered many a times to do different things where other boys wouldn't go. And when we pulled people out of the tanks, we'd grab a hold of their arm or their head would come off. They would cook like a turkey.
A German came up and he fired. Unfortunately for me, it was over 45 degrees, and they need to be almost at 90 degrees to penetrate. And it bounced off the tank, and I can tell you, my heart was up in my throat, but it bounced off the tank. If it didn't, it would create a brew up. And unfortunately, some of my tanks did brew up. Everybody dies usually. We call it a brew up.
That's an Army expression. That means it catches fire, explodes, and goes up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It'll be an awful way to die, to be burned up.
Yeah, we took one of my friends out of the shoebox. A third of our tanks were lost in that one day, and a third of our officers.
That was worse for us in casualties than the actual action at the Melsa itself.
Drove through an solid wedge of armor, met the best of the German armor, the famous Panther tank, and although knowing themselves outgunned, another crew commander turned his city many times to drove the Germans like hand dogs after them.
The Germans were retreating at this point. Yeah, we put them on the run. We were advancing in all this line. There's not just the Strathconas, but there are other regiments, and the Perth Regiment, and the Irish, and the various infantry, Cape Breton Highlanders. They were all coming in line after us. The tanks went in there first.
You were trying to go forward, basically to kill the Germans, and you saw them, you started to kill them. I was much too busy to be scared, and I wanted to do what I came to do in the first place, which was to beat the Germans.
We shot the first Tiger tank in Italy. And if you shoot it head on, you can't penetrate it. The only way is from the back. Or we knocked the tread off, which has to be a good lucky shot. And the first Tiger, we knocked the tread off, and the crews of the Tiger tank evacuated. And we shot with machine guns on them. It was a feeling of elation. Yeah, we got them.
We never, to my knowledge, ever killed a prisoner, ever. But we could refuse to take prisoners, which is what they were doing. And in one case, I overran a position, and the people jumped out and dropped their rifles and stuck their hands in the air and started to scream, "Camarade, camarade." And I refused to accept their surrender. I just turned my gunner loose on them and wiped them out.
After the hinterland, 3 days after, we were still picking up. We had our wounded picked. We were loading the dead on a flat car, on the flat box of a truck, and our sergeant picked up his own son. He didn't know he was in the army. He absolutely went berserk, I'm telling you. There were so many dead and Germans and our boys and everything else. that they had to push them out of the side for our artillery and our tanks to come through. And after 3 days, we didn't have our dead picked up, so the bulldozers came in and dug big holes and just pushed everybody in.
So they were both German and Canadian?
Both German, Canadian, and there was animals and everything else.
The Melfort River was the great breakthrough. That sort of paved the route to Rome.
The road to Rome was lined with the wreckage of Nazi legions, blasted by Allied airfire.
That breakthrough at the Melfort River was probably the last major fight that the Germans put up before Rome.
We presumed they were going up to find another river and set up another line that we'd have to break again. As it happens, they left. They didn't go to Rome. We didn't know that.
Films taken by Italian anti-fascists show the evacuation of Rome, one of the greatest blows of the war to Nazi prestige. The streets were deserted. Nazis left.
We were told to stop. And we sent back a message saying, we're only 26 miles out of Rome and they're running. We could be there in 2 hours. We were told you will stop immediately. Do not go any farther. Stop where you are. And we stopped where we were, and we found out later the Americans wanted to take Rome.
The Canadians were definitely the ones that broke the Hitler line, which then opened up the road to Rome. No question about it. But within the short distance of being Rome, they pulled us back, and the Americans marched in. That was 2 days before D-Day, by the way.
June 4th, 1944. Rome was free, liberated after 21 years of fascist rule.
We could never understand it. We were there to liberate it, but politically, the Americans marched in.
More citizens turn out to greet the Yanks, as now, in formal order, they pour through the gates into the ancient city.
We done all the work and all the hardships and whatnot, and they took the glory.
General Clark enters Rome. Europe's first capital to fall to Allied armies of liberation is now officially occupied. Roman populace begins to gather in a joyful reception.
General Mark Clark, the Americans, told the Canadians out and put the Americans to go into Rome. Oh, we were so furious we'd have killed the Americans faster than the Germans if we got them. But however, Clark, I think he got his comeuppance later, I think even from the Americans, because in going into Rome like that and picking up the glory, he allowed a whole German army group to escape. And they got up to we had to fight them in the Gothic line in August 31st with many more casualties, a lot more, troops killed and wounded and tanks lost and everything like that. And that shouldn't have happened if he'd done his job and surrounded Rome instead of going into it and cut off all those German armies.
We look back what we had accomplished. We had forced the Italian army out of the war altogether. We were containing close to 1 million Germans, over 900 some odd thousand Germans. We were containing them in Italy. And if we hadn't done that, both the Italian and the German troops would have been quickly transported up in northwest Europe and would have made that campaign an even tougher one than it was. And of course, 6th of June, D-Day up in Normandy, and they kind of forgot about us down there in Italy.
After D-Day, we were kind of forgotten.
We were known as the D-Day Dodgers.
We felt that was a harsh thing for them to say because What? Calling us the D-Day Dodgers. Because we had already had 11 months of frontline duty when D-Day occurred.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the world knew that Italy wasn't a cakewalk.
Well, I've been back to Italy 5 times, eh? And I have visited one time or another every cemetery that we have friends of mine buried in.
How does that feel?
It's cathartic in a way, because at times I have felt guilty that I'm alive. And they're dead. Can you understand that?
We landed at a kino, a holiday with hay. Sherry brought the band down to cheer us on our way. Showed us the sights and gave us keys. We all sang songs, the beer was free. We are the D-Day Dodgers in sunny Italy. The sorrow and the bonus were just a couple of days. We only went there looking for the day. You see, the rest of us were just a bus. We didn't get home, sat on our arms. We are the D-Day Dodgers when you look around the mountains, through the mud and rain, you'll find the crosses, some which bear no name. Heartbreak and toil and suffering gone, the ore is beneath them, some are off. They were the D-Day Dodgers who will stay in Italy.
There you have it right there. All right. Let's see here. Oh, what's this? What are people writing in my chat room here? Well, what's this here? Let's see what these people are saying in the chat room now. Unreal. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, you all. Oh God. Well, what's that? They called me a baby killer. Here I am, a soldier fighting for their. Well, there you go. Well, that's the way it goes. Anyway, 657-383-0616. Press 1 if you got something you want to talk about. Or because I'm going to be doing a couple of these podcasts here. Remembering Memorial Day here, because we have to remember the people that fought for our country. Whether you like it or not. I mean, like they say, don't blame the warrior. I mean, and our government, this government is, I would say when I do the Revolutionary War, that's the one there that's, founding of this country and the idea of freedom where it was established, and then where we basically lost and got duped in the Civil War. But we still had good people in this country all the way. I mean, they called it World War II the greatest generation. I would say, the people really took a real downward spiral turn. I mean, we see now today the people in this country people are just brainwashed, thick-headed. Look at these liberals that are running around. I mean, these inclusive nonsense. They're just gone. I mean, before this show tonight, I was over at the Liberal Dan's YouTube channel there, and I'm looking at the chat room there, and I said the word retard in the chat room there, and they all went nuts. They said, you can't say that word over here. I said, are you people? I mean, what the hell is a retard? Retard. You're right. You're a retard. Yeah, all right? They can't say that because it's offensive. That's an offensive word. So they have their own language now. These people are coming up with this. They're trying to push upon society. You can't say anything offensive. Or you can't like I've been on other podcast shows and I've gotten into some arguments with people like this guy from he says he's from Singapore or whatever. You should be nice to him. He's over here. He's an American. Listen, man. Don't tell me what I like. What matter of fact, I was on a couple weeks ago. I think it was. I like what Donnie had to say. This guy Mike says, Donnie, you should tell Joe to apologize. How is he going to tell me to apologize? I didn't even have to say nothing. At least Donnie, he's old school. At least he knows what time it is. He says, I can't tell him what to apologize. But that's how they think. That's the point I'm trying to make. These liberals, these weak-minded people today, even a lot of conservatives, they're you hear it from our side too. Be nice. There's no deals with the devil, folks. No deals. I hope people learn something from these war stories. I hope they learn just don't listen to them. Hear everything that these people are saying. Hear what they're saying. Because you don't want another war. You don't want a war in our streets. Because all bets are off. And sometimes I'm thinking that this is the way it's going to have to be to clean this place up. I don't want to see violence. I don't want to see war. I don't want to see children suffering. I don't want to see, because even I'll go hungry. A lot of people go hungry. Say goodbye to the Food Lion or Stop and Shop, the grocery stores out there. Say goodbye to your car factories. Say goodbye to your nice, clean highways. They're gone. We go to war in this country. The infrastructure of this country will collapse. The cities, oh boy, don't get caught out in a city. The only way you're going to find refuge is out in the countryside, on a farm. Where if war was to break out in this country, I don't think it will. But if the infrastructure was to collapse in this country, let me tell you something, it'll be hell. The way these people are today, the way they think and act, it's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, we can't get nothing straight anymore. I'm on a podcast show a couple of weeks ago we got a few people across the country trying to organize righteousarmy.org, trying to get people, to reestablish the republic, arguing with us. Arguing. We're fighting with each other about how we're going to restore the listen, shut up and just listen. I'm not going to obey you. Would you obey this government? You obey these criminal bankers? You lick their boots? We're trying to give you freedom. Trying to restore the republic, restore our original constitution. And it's like everybody wants to fight with each other. Trump this, Trump that. Listen. Sending money over to Ukraine, Israel, those countries are not my allies. I've said this is my new saying. My ally is my next door neighbor down the road that I borrow a socket set from. That my neighbor that gives my kids a ride to school when my car breaks down or gives me a ride. That's my ally, my neighbors, my people, my community. Not Israel, not Ukraine. They're not my allies. I don't care about no damn Ukraine. We're sending money over. They got aid going over there to fight the Russians. For all we know, the Russians are probably doing a good thing. Ukraine's probably more corrupt hell than Russia. It's none of our business, though. We got no business over there at all. No business. Right now, we got our political leaders with their fangs over there. Before they send our troops over there, we need to knock it off. I don't want to see our troops over there dying and bleeding. We'll have more war stories to tell. We don't need that, man. We don't need that. Now I go back to the Revolutionary War. That war was a meaningful war to fight for our establishment of this country. Those are really the heroes those are the real first heroes of our country. The patriots that established this country. George Washington did not have wooden teeth. He was not a Freemason, okay? I don't want to hear it. Don't slander his name with that bull crap, okay? He was not. All right? So these founding fathers were good people. They were tough, rugged men that had honor. When they said they'd be someplace at 9 o'clock, they were there. Your hand, that meant something. Their word meant something. Not like today. You can't have your best friend late. Well, can't even show up on time. Tell them to be there at 11 o'clock. If 2 o'clock rolls on, hey, where are you? They didn't answer the phone. Come on. Now, don't you knock those men, mock those people from back then during that time. That's disgusting. Nobody should do that. Those are why don't they come up with a bill for that instead of this anti-Semitism crap? Why don't they come up with a bill? You mock our founding fathers or these foreigners that come over here and burn the U.S. flag. You know, why don't we come up with a bill with that for that? Bullshit. All right, 214, I see you. You're on.
It's a gunslinger.
Howdy. What's the word?
Yeah. Man, this is, it's crazy. Like I said, all these wars that we've had have been banker wars. Whether you want to believe it or not, they've been banker wars. They push each country against each other, and they bet on who's going to win and who's going to die.
Yeah.
World War I,
yeah.
World War II, Korea, Nam, a whole damn 9 yards. Okay, has been banker.
Yeah, World War I. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't need to be the babysitter for the whole freaking damn world. That's a big world out there. Okay. Now, would I go over there and fight them cocksuckers? No. Hell. Now, if they came here and on the American soil, like this one you're sitting on right now or the one I'm sitting on, that would be a different story. This country has really never been invaded by boots on the ground. Okay? As in war. Okay? Never has. Not that I know of. Okay? Yeah, we got the idiot Mexicans and all these other trash coming over the southern border. Yeah.
No, I know these damn shitskins. I know they're bastards, man. I can't stand it. They can come over. Listen, man. I granted it's the fact. Okay, they're good workers. Okay, all right. Blah 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 blah. Okay, fine. But the fact of the matter is, they broke the law when they came over here. They're illegal. Okay, they're lawbreakers. They're breaking our law. So if they break our law and we allow it to let them get away with it, what respect are they going to have for the rest of our laws? None.
None. They're illegal. That means they have no rights. Okay?
Yeah.
They have no rights in their country, and they damn sure don't have no rights in this country because they're illegal.
No, they have no constitutional rights. That's true.
What part of that people don't understand?
Yeah.
It's so simple. But people are so damn stupid, okay?
Now, they have human rights. They have human rights. I mean, they can't come over here and we just still gun them down with 50 caliber machine guns, but we should be detaining them and shipping them back. We have the technology to do so. We have the manpower to do it.
It just depends on where you are. If you go over to some of these countries, they will gun you down with a machine gun. Okay?
Oh, over
guaranteed.
Country, yeah.
There ain't no doubt about that. Okay.
Oh yeah, Mexican cartels will fry you in a freaking barrel. They'll put you in a bucket of acid.
I mean, they have no problem. They have no problem killing you. They have no problem beheading you. They have no problem setting you on fire. Shoot them. Plain and simple.
Yeah,
shoot them.
Yeah. Well, down there at the border, there's what's going. You're from Texas, so what's the news? I mean, we don't hear nothing no more about the border, really.
Well, actually, they're kind of getting it under control, believe it or not. Okay. When Abbott put up all that razor wire and all them floating things out there in the Rio Grande, I think they ought to put piranha fish in that damn thing, or alligators. Okay. The immigration down there has almost dropped to the Border Patrol sitting around playing cards. That's how low it's going. The walls and the razor wire. Yeah, it is effective. It works. Razor wire works. Walls work. Floating devices out there in the water works. Finish the wall. It works. If you finish the damn thing.
Drones work.
Okay.
Drones work.
Drones.
Instead of sending drones over to Ukraine, we'll use drones at our border.
Yeah, why not using them here? Why don't we call it kissing their ass when they hate our asses and to start out with, okay? But we're going to go over and support Ukraine and all that. No, we don't. Let them fight their own
goddamn
wars.
Gunslinger, this is the attitude. This is the attitude of the liberals. Because I scan around their podcast shows, and I'll call in and I'll get them going sometimes. Sometimes I'll just play devil's advocate. Now, this is their attitude. We have plenty of resources over here. Those people are in trouble. They're running for their lives. We should take as many as we can and set them up and let them be free and enjoy this country. We should give them a chance. That's their attitude. What do you say about that?
Oh, yeah. They're bleeding heart liberal. That's what you get from a bleeding heart liberal. All right? You know, they've been so mistreated and all this bullshit. Okay?
Yeah.
How is that affecting me or you in this country? I don't care.
Negativity.
I'm like,
it's affecting me negatively as far as them coming over here.
I'm like Ron Reck. I don't give a fuck about them. Plain and simple. America first. Plain and simple.
Well,
America first.
America first. That's right. And well, we got a place here in Greensboro, North Carolina. That's it. Out of all places too. It's a former Jewish school, actually, a Jewish saying whatever the hell the synagogue they had there, and it was closed down. And now they opened it up into a camp for children, illegal immigrant children, and Palestinians. They've opened it up, and it's like that. Oh man, there's thousands of workers there. I mean, this place is humongous. They got armed security there. I mean, and it's a human trafficking smuggling ring. This place, and everyone knows it, and they're talking about it on the next door. People can Google it and look it up. In Greensboro, North Carolina, and this is going to be the hub for the Palestinians, for the Haitians, for all these people that are coming right here into my backyard. And Greensboro's a city. I think it's the third largest city in North Carolina. And this is not good. This is not good. They have not started shipping them here yet, but they got the place all staffed and ready to go. So people are watching. We're keeping an eye on it. But this is dangerous.
Look, remember back in blowjob Clinton days? Okay, remember him. Remember what he said. Remember what he said. I can't wait to see a sea of brown out there. He wasn't talking about shit.
Yeah.
He was talking about people that are not white people. All these Mexicans and all these Pakistanians and all this other bullshit. That's what he was talking about. Multiculti bullshit is what it is.
Well, these Sri Lankans, these Indians and these Sri Lanka people that have been over here, and these Palestinians that have been. I met a guy from the PLO actually back years ago, just before all this crap happened to me. I was 16 years old working for Wallbaum Supermarket, Jewish store, Wallbaum's. All right. Anyway, I was working there as a third shift night clerk. I was still going to school, high school, but I worked there part-time stocking shelves. And this guy was from Palestine. He was from the PLO. He had a pin on his shirt and everything. And me and him almost got into a fight. He said he was trained. He said, I was born with an AK-47 in my hands and everything. He's always talking smack and everything. And now, you know how I'm a wise guy now. Imagine how I was when I was 16, So I was talking so much crap to this guy. I was like, come on, let's see what you got then, tough guy. Because he said he was military trained and everything, and all my people, that were, true Americans at that time, from my community were, backed me up, of course. And so we just all started ranking on this guy. And, well, he complained to the manager. And the manager was like, I don't give a crap, So anyway, we're unionized up there, okay? And it's in Connecticut. And it's a store union. So the union gets involved, and the union rep comes, and now they put us a whole night crew on suspension, right? And we got to go to a hearing because they were going to terminate us. But they can't fire us because we're in a union, So we had to keep our jobs, we had to apologize, write a letter of apology to the store, so they can post it on the bulletin board. So the employees, this is the training, sensitivity training that they were just starting to come out with. This is back in 1988. And they put it on the bulletin board. Now today, imagine if that would happen today. I'd be sitting in prison. Union, I'd be sitting in prison. But this was the beginning of the downfall of our country. And that's what I was talking about with the types of people we have in this country now. In the 1990s, we really saw the deterioration of America. The backbone of America just fall apart. The assault weapons ban, 1994. Remember that one? You know, and, I mean, it was bad. It was bad. George Bush too was the ringleader of that crap. You know, and then Clinton, like you said, blowjob Clinton. You know, and that opened the door for abomination. So, you know, I mean, it was just, so we've seen what's happened over the last 30 years to this country, the destruction of it. And really, right now, they're pulling the rug out from underneath us. Digital currency coming soon, the collapse, the reset, whatever the hell they got planned, World War III, the banker war, like you just saying, it funds both sides of each conflict. This is all coming about right before our very eyes. I think America truly is gone. It's like right now, I just get this feeling that we're just sitting idly by. And we're just watching everything just go by real fast and like fast forward. Everything's going, you know, fast, and we're losing our country. And there's nothing. I feel like we can't do anything about it. Like our hands are tied. What can we do? You know,
it's like that movie that came out in the '80s. I think it was called Trading Places. You know, they were betting this. They could dethrone this guy. How much did you win? $1. And that's what they do. They bet on how they can fuck up this country. They go to bed thinking, how can we screw the American people? They go out there and they probably jack off in the shower thinking, how can we screw the American people today? Oh, I love it. These people are psycho. They're psycho.
Yeah.
I mean, they are absolutely totally nuts.
Oh,
okay.
They are. I mean, these liberals are just nuts. I mean, go to folks out there that are listening right now, check out some of these liberal podcasts and just listen to what they talk about. They're nuts. They're nuts, man. Literally nuts. I mean, there's no talking to them. There's no, listen to this AOC the other day. Baby girl. Baby girl. What the hell does baby girl mean? Oh, don't you, baby girl? What the hell are they turning our freaking government? That's our Senate floor, baby girl. They talk like that. What the hell kind of nonsense is this? You know, I mean, and everybody's laughing about it. It's funny. It's not funny. It's disgusting. Talk like that, baby girl. Yo, be like that, yo. You know, come on, man. What's wrong with our country? What's wrong? And AOC, she ain't getting unthroned up there in New York anytime soon. She's going to win. She'll be she's a lifer now in Congress. She's never getting unseated. You know? She might be vice president one day.
Unfortunately, the way this country is heading, unless something is changed real quick, and like I said, better hope to God Trump gets back in there. They'll give us 4 more years. Unfortunately, he couldn't run another 4 years. He should be able to because they screwed him out of the last one. Okay, because you know how they cheated. Mm-hmm. He should be entitled to another 4 years because of that.
Yeah,
because it was unfair.
I agree.
Okay, Trump has a way of smoothing things over. He's a diplomat. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to talk to these countries. You know, China loved him. Putin loved him. Rocket Boys loved him. Okay, and nobody was fighting and killing each other at that time. Now look what they're doing. You know, we're on the verge of World War III, for God's sakes, because of these fucking Democrats. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
their policy. Yeah, foreign policy.
Their foreign policy. If this does not change, this country's going to go to war. I can see the handwriting on the wall. It ain't going to be pretty because what are you going to do? You know, I was going to buy a 24-pack of A&W root beer at freaking Walmart. You know how much they want for that? $24 fucking dollars.
Holy man! That's a wow.
Of A&W freaking root beer, for God's sake. Soda, for God's sakes. $24.
That's unheard. I mean, that was unheard of when I was a kid. That's insane. Insane. 2-liter bottle of soda. Yeah. I mean, the price is now the store brand, a Food Lion brand $1.69. Back when I was stocking shelves, they would go for 39 cents. You know, I mean,
exactly.
Insane.
Exactly.
Has your paycheck gone up that much? Hey, I hear you got some motion detectors going on back there, huh? And you got motion sensors? I know what those sound like.
Yeah, the dogs come up the back of the back door there, and I got my motion sensor right there by the back door, so it goes off.
Yeah, animals. You got to try to get it so the animals can't trip it off. Yeah, you know, that's about. I used to have those up on my other property, and the freaking cat would jump up on the picnic table and freaking set it off and everything. You know, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm jumping out of bed. I'm locked and loaded, getting ready to run out the door. And it's a freaking cat.
Yeah, I got another alarm system on the gate out there that it beeps every time somebody comes up to the gate out there. So that's what my 9mm, you know, loaded, locked and loaded, and ready to go. You know?
Well, I did a show last night. I did my podcast last night. If anybody missed it, I tried calling the United States Senator Alex Padilla, his office. I called all his district offices, no answer. I went to voicemail. I called 13 offices. I tried called on the West Coast, New Mexico. I tried calling a few people, politicians out there. So you know, I do that sometimes on my podcast show. When I do a Tuesday night show, I'll call the West Coast because it's 7 o'clock here and it's only 4 o'clock there, so they're still in the office. You know, and I'll just call them. And last night I was going to call them and just, you know, shoot the shit and say, hey, I'm just checking in on you, you know, see what you're doing and, you know, what kind of job, you know, how's things going, you know, because I'm their boss, technically, you know. And that's, you know, that's how the American people are supposed to view things, you know.
It's called We the People. What part of we don't people understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
amazing.
This right here, they say breaking news right here. They say this is on InfoWars actually. They say Klaus Schwab resigns. Top globalists around the world are stepping down. Why, I wonder? Why? I wonder why they're doing this. See, this is a sign of something. Are they switching over to digital currency? Oh, yeah. And what's going on? What are they up to? Last time they did this, some events happened. It was right before the election, actually. So it was, you know, and then I remember, you know, go throughout the history. You see mass movement of these dirtbags that worship the devil and Satan and these bankers and everything. They all started doing these CEO switch and swap, you know, and transferring wealth and stuff. So the world inches closer to war. Like you were just talking about there, you know, Zelensky demands Biden allow U.S. rockets to strike deep into Russian territory despite promise not to. The Ukrainian government is suspiciously making the request just after globalist warmonger Victoria Nuland promoted the same idea on ABC News over the weekend. Why listen to her? She helped bring about this war. Why should not escalate the war by sending weapons that allow Ukraine to strike targets inside Russia? We should insist on negotiations to end the war. When will the U.S. media report Ukrainian casualties? They're trying to get us into a war with Russia, a conflict. They're trying to get NATO involved, and this is bad. This is bad. This is not good. Not good at all. I mean, if they strike inside targets inside Russia, then Putin will strike NATO. He'll go after NATO. He'll do one of those supersonic bombs, whoop, zip, right in a pole in there. So, and then, of course, they'll, you know, stage it up. Oh, yeah, look at Putin. He's going to take over the world. You know, we got to go to war. No. You know, we're escalating this. We're playing good cop, bad cop over there. And we should not, we have got to freaking get back in control of our government, man. I mean, I just don't know what else to say or do or try to get involved or try to get people to wake up and motivated to take back our system of government and restore our republic. What do we have to do? What's the answer? I'm so frustrated. I'm so aggravated. I'm pissed off. I mean, just don't know what to do.
It's going to take something major, okay, to get people off their ass, okay? Look at the Civil War. Only a handful of people actually fought in the Civil War, okay? It wasn't the whole goddamn
and the Revolutionary War. Revolutionary War.
I mean, the Revolutionary War. It was only a handful of people. All the people that was over here. Yeah. And it's the same thing today. there's only a small percentage of people that is doing this stuff. You know, and there's millions and millions of people out there like us. What are they waiting for? Christmas?
I know. I just don't know. I think everybody's waiting for Trump. They're waiting for the Trump thing. They're waiting for the November election thing. But that pacifism, that type of attitude is going to lead us to destruction. I'm telling you right now, because I honestly don't believe, as of right now, I mean, I could change my opinion here as the election gets closer, but as of right now today, I don't believe that Trump's going to win. I believe they're going to do a deal with these criminal prosecutions. They're going to let those fade away into the wind, and Trump is going to lose the election, and they're telling him that. And otherwise they're going to kill his family, you know, or something like that. And, you know, he's going to concede and eventually shut his mouth, and they'll drop the criminal prosecutions, and he'll, you know, a couple of years be dead of old age, you know. So, I mean, as of right now, that's the feeling that I'm getting. And I think Biden will be replaced 2 years into the next term. I think he'll be replaced for the next.
Well,
I think this is really my opinion.
Okay, Biden's not going to get back in there. I guarantee you that. Okay, if Trump does not get back in there and they cheat again with all of the bullshit, you're going to see blood in the street. Because people now waking up, they're waking up even more than what they were awake in 2016. They've seen how these people, the Democrats, have treated that man over and over trumped up charges, pun intended. Okay, it's all trumped up. Yeah. Every bit of lies.
Who was in the chat room talking crazy stuff here? Look at this. What is he trying to do? This person in the chat room. What's this person's agenda here? I mean, you know, I mean, you can't say stuff like that. So what's he trying to do? You know, I don't know. You know, I don't know. I've never seen this person in my chat room before, so I don't know who it is, or if it's somebody else, or if it's Kat. You know, pulling her crap. You know, because she's a troll, self-admitted troll. So I don't know what they're trying to do. That's you know, what are they trying to do? Look, I do not condone violence. I do not condone any type of revolution of the people rising up and overthrowing the American government. That's not what I'm about. I'm about restoring our Constitution and our country and our American values lawfully and peacefully. Okay? So let's let that be on the record right now before time runs out and we stop the recording here. Okay? So let that be on the record. So in case anybody's trying to provoke anything. Because these trolls like to do that. You know, I'm targeted, Gunslinger. You know that. I mean, I'm targeted. I mean, I'm sure you were at one time too. Yeah. So, you know.
But at some point, you have to tell the truth. Truth hurts. You know that? Truth hurts. Okay.
Oh, it always does.
And it always does. It always did. It always does, and it always will. Okay. So you can either accept the truth, or you can live in a freaking fantasy world. Okay? It's a free country, supposedly. Okay? So, fantasy world is not going to get you nowhere. It's supposed to be. The fantasy world is not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to get you in more trouble. But the truth, have you ever heard? The truth will set you free? Okay, there it is. The truth of the matter is, unfortunately, violence works. And I'm not calling for anything. But look at what they did in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah. Well, bloodshed. Because look, blood, and that's the way of Jesus too. You know, the Bible, blood, you know, cleanses all. That's God. You know, so that's Well, you know, you can't deny that fact. I got something here actually that I wanted to play. It's about 8 minutes long. It's about the end times, and this was the guy who I went to school with. Actually, well, he was my professor actually. A theology professor, and I have something that I wanted to play that discusses what's happening and how things are you know, formulating and coming about today and panning out, and why they're happening, and it's all documented because we have these debates about the Bible and everything, you know, and everybody's got their say and this and that and the reason why this and this and that, which is fine. You're entitled to your opinion, but facts are facts, and you know, prophecy has been foretold, and this is just what my thoughts, and I'd like your thoughts on it, Gunslinger, if you want to, after it's done playing. What you think about it. I'm trying to pull it up right now. So here it is, right here. Okay, and this was just done a couple of days ago, but he talks about the end times and where we stand today and what's going to happen here and how things are going to pan out and play out. And according to what the Bible says, whether you believe it or not, or whether you don't want to believe it, I don't care. But let me get it going here. Okay, I'm going to play it right now. Start it off. All right, it's about 10 minutes long.
In just a moment. This would be a digital form of currency. A woman by the name of Pippa Malmgren, an economist, at the World Government Summit in 2022. She states her belief that the world financial system is about to switch accounting systems and digital money, not decentralized cryptos, but centralized CBDCs, central bank digital currency. If you remember, the Biden administration accessed bank records to track bank account, debit card, and credit card purchases made in Washington, D.C. during the January 6th riot investigation. In October, even greater government overreach was avoided when the Biden administration backed down on a proposal to direct the IRS to collect additional data on every bank account that sees more than $600 in actual transactions. So here's the thing. Implementing such a global digital currency system would require the establishment of a global digital currency and a global digital identity for every person. What does the Bible say about the one world currency?
Well, the Bible does, and we've talked about this before in regard to Revelation chapter 13, the great chapter in your Bible on the subject of the Antichrist. In verse 16, 17, and 18 of that chapter, it speaks about nobody being able to buy or sell unless they take the mark of the beast in their right hand or in their forehead.
Sure.
All right, and if you have a digital currency, this is all about complete control over individual lives.
Yes.
All right, if you can't buy or sell unless you have, the mark, and it's going to begin with this digital currency, because you will not be able to do anything. Hey, listen, you can't do anything with cash in your pocket because
it won't be worth anything.
It won't, it's
not worth anything now.
It might be something worth something. Naturally, there's going to be if they implement that, there's going to be a black market.
Yes.
Okay, and there's going to be the selling of goods and so forth and so on. But you won't be able to go into a store. You won't be able to do anything, all right, unless you have digital currency and the mark of the beast.
Right.
It's controlling your life. That's why they were pushing for such a long time. If you think about this, all right, EVs, electric vehicles.
Yep.
Okay, and under the guise of wanting to, protect the environment from pollutants and so forth and so on. But listen, if you're driving an electric vehicle, you have to go home at night and plug your car in.
Right.
And if you don't have electricity, you can't plug your car in, and you're not going to go
anywhere.
Going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. So
Right.
they're going to control. Hey, listen, they even want to outlaw gas stoves. Okay, because if you have a gas stove, you know what you can do? You can cook your own food without them knowing about it. But if they can control your electricity in regard to, what you do in your home, if they can control your electricity in regard to your car, if they can control, how you buy or sell, that's what it's all about. Complete control over the individual, and if you deviate from that complete control, you come and you get arrested, and in the tribulation period, you'll ultimately be executed. But that's what it's all about.
Digital one world currency. At the same World Economic Forum last year, during a keynote speech at the opening day of the World Government Summit in Dubai last year, the World Economic Forum's executive chairman, Klaus Schwab, called for world leaders to unite to address global issues such as climate change, trade, and economic disruption. He emphasized that this one world government must form as soon as possible.
Yes.
So all these things that the Bible talks about, one world government, one world currency, all this kind of stuff, it's happening. You can read about it in the news. I mean, people say, the Bible is filled with fantasies and fairy tales about to come true. I think you got to check it out. But if you don't have any further comment on that, I'd love to we should do a more extensive show on this whole World Economic Forum and how they're basically bringing the signs of the times to reality here in our midst. But I know, Pastor, you've got something to tell us from the scriptures about the country of Russia and how they may play a role in the days ahead.
Well, we started out a couple weeks ago about talking about the nations which are going to be prominent in the tribulation period, and everything that's going to take place in the near future is being set up right now. In regard to what the Scripture foretells, you can see, just like we're talking about the one world government, one world economic system, the digital money system, so forth and so on. You can see it all transpiring right now. And so that's why we've talked about Israel and the part that they're going to play in the tribulation period, the revived Roman Empire, which is going to come under the leadership of the Antichrist. And last week we talked about China and the kingdoms from the Far East that are going to be united under the auspices of China as they march from the Far East to the Middle East and then ultimately into Israel, killing 1/3 of the world's population when they do that. And today we want to speak about Russia and the nations that will be confederate with Russia, all right, in regarding the invasion of Israel during the time of the tribulation. Now, the scriptures that we want to use, all right, to show you in regard to one of these things, what these things are going to happen and, how they happen and so forth and so on, are found in the book of Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39. And these words in Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39 were written about 600 years before the birth of the Lord Jesus Christ in the year 587 BC to be exact. And, these couple of chapters are prophetic, and they look forward beyond our present day and time to the tribulation period and beyond. And before we get into some of specific things there are some different views regarding Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39 when regard to they took place. Now, this passage deals with a invasion of Israel and the nations, as we said, that are confederate with her. And there at one time, and it was ascribed to by many people, all right, that this invasion takes place at the beginning of the tribulation period. So in other words, you have the rapture, taking away of believers, you see, bringing the age of grace to a conclusion, and then you enter that 7-year period referred to in the Bible as the tribulation period. And it was preached especially by a very well-known evangelist by the name of Dr. Jack Van Impe. Dr. Jack Van Impe has been in heaven now for a number of years. At one time, he was called the Walking Bible. All right, and a lot of his preaching was in regard to prophetic things, and he had committed the entire New Testament to memory and much of the Old Testament. Yes, seriously. And so he spoke a lot about prophetic things. These 2 chapters are prophetic, but Jack Van Impe used to preach that these things would happen at the beginning of the tribulation period. So you have the rapture and then this invasion by Russia, all right, at the beginning of the tribulation period, and you're going to see here that God is ultimately going to wipe these nations out that are invading Israel. But that was one, interpretation by, as we said, Dr. Van Impe. Another interpretation in regard to these 2 chapters is being made reference to as the Battle of Armageddon, which naturally takes place at the end of the tribulation period when the Lord Jesus Christ returns to fight against the Antichrist, the kings of this world, and establish his kingdom on the earth. And that basically has been the interpretation. Many of you might be familiar with the Scofield Reference Bible, and those notes were put together by a well-known Bible teacher at the end of the 19th century, C.I. Scofield, and there are others who collaborated with him in regard to the notes of the Scofield Reference Bible. But their teaching was this is all reference to the Battle of Armageddon, and it really looks beyond Armageddon, all right, to the Battle of Gog and Magog, all right, which you read about in the book of Revelation chapter 20. That happens after the millennial reign of Christ takes place on the earth. And then one more interpretation is that the events of 38 is a battle to this battle of Gog and Magog. Gog, as we said, that takes place at the end of the millennium, and that, ultimately, when that battle takes place, Satan is going to be cast forever into the lake of fire before eternity begins. And then you read about, as we said, that in Revelation chapter 20, verses 7 and 9, and that Ezekiel chapter 39 is a reference to the Battle of Armageddon itself. And that was
primarily the teaching of Dr. Peter S. Ruckman, very well-known Bible teacher in our day and time. And so you got a little bit differential views about, when these things particularly take place. However, we know that this is all in a reference to the future, whether it be the tribulation period and then looking beyond the tribulation period, as he said, to that battle of Gog and Magog that takes place after the millennium. And so we're not going to get into a lot of the specifics, but I want you to notice, because you can see this evolving right now, if I can use that term, in regard to the nations that are going to be involved in this. And it is a tribulation reference. There is some reference to this in the tribulation period, and we believe that the return of the Lord is very near, and so you see these things being set up right now. And so I'm going to read to you, first of all, 3 verses from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38, verses 1 to 3. And the Bible says this in verse number 1 of Ezekiel 38, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And so you got 4 names that are mentioned in these couple of verses here. In verse number 2, to be specific here, you have the name Gog. Well, the name Gog means this. It means a ruler, all right? It means a prince or a leader. And you can see there, it says, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, and then it calls him in verse number 3. It says, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. So that's an individual, all right? That's a leader, that's a prince. But then it goes on to mention this name, Magog, all right? When you study out that name Magog, this is a reference to a people, all right, who populated an area north of the Black Sea. And so if you were to look at a world map and look at the Black Sea and go north of the Black Sea, you'd see that you're talking about the areas of what would now be Ukraine and Western Russia. All right, so this is the leader, the prince of the land. It says the land of Magog. So that's a reference to Russia. And it calls him the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Those are names of cities, all right? And Meshech here in chapter 38, verse number 32, would be a reference to the city of Moscow, okay? And Tubal would be a reference to the city Tobolsk, which is a city in Siberia in Russia. So you see that whole thing deals with Russia. And not only do you read about that, but you read about in verse 5 and 6, here in the book of Ezekiel. In verse 5 and 6 it says, These are the nations that are confederate with Russia, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Verse 6 says Gomer, and all her bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. So you read about 5 kingdoms that are involved here with Russia, naturally Persia, and you read about Persia in the Old Testament, all right? But if you look at that area, which would formerly have been referred to as Persia in the Old Testament, those are the nations of Iran and Iraq now. Okay, and as everyone is well aware, those are Muslim nations, and they are anti-Israel, right? Completely all the way. Oh yeah. And Iran and many of those.
All right, there we go. I'll finish up the last 30 seconds of that right there because he goes on. You guys got 1 minute to call in, otherwise you can't get in. So you'll probably get the sound will go shut off. So anybody wants to comment on this, I got about 10 minutes left here, not on the video, but talking about this. So 657-383-0616, you call in now, otherwise you won't be able to get in. The end times coming about. Basically, he explains more detail there. I'm not going to play it, but it goes into talk about how Russia is going to invade from the north. I've said this many times on other podcast shows. Russia will gather its army with China, and they will invade and conquer Israel from the north. But God intervenes and destroys them all. So what happens then? The Antichrist takes credit for it. So he declares peace in the region, and now we got peace on earth. So that's what's happening right now. It's happening right before our very eyes. I don't know how you can't say it's not happening. I see callers on the line. I see you. Connect you here in a second. So glad you made it in before they cut you off. All this stuff is referenced in the Bible. Now, again, these are, now you go back to text, the original text, Textus Receptus manuscripts that date within 50 years of Christ. Within 50 years. These are actual manuscripts kept in archives, written, proof, archaeological evidence that if you translate it from Hebrew to Greek to Latin to Coverdale, Tyndale, whatnot, the 7 translations all mean the same thing. Words mean the same thing. They're just pronounced differently because we have different languages, okay? So you can argue it all you want and say it's not true, but again, 2,000 years ago, these things are written, and they're happening today. These were not countries back then. Russia didn't exist back then, okay? Persia was not Iraq and Iran, and they were not predominantly Muslim nations back then. So Libya, same thing. So how did these people, these prophets or Ezekiel, know this and write something? And 2,000 years later, it's archived and it's there and it's happening today. You're trying to tell me men are making this happen? They are controlling the events to make it exactly happen? Jesus riding into on a donkey, it made that happen too. I mean, just so, again, all this stuff, you can't deny it. So I'll take the first caller here. Go ahead there, 314. Go ahead.
Well, you guys will be talking about politics again. How's everybody tonight?
We were. I did a whole show about war and the wars that are going on and veterans, the Memorial Day War. We just kind of got led off into this a little bit here, a little bit off, off that topic. But we were talking about the borders not being secure in America and the veterans of every war and how the bankers have started all the wars and how the destruction of the people in America have changed over the years. We don't have the same values anymore.
Well, I agree with you on that last one. Seemingly they don't have the same values. When you got
and how to fix it. How can we fix this? How can we fix it?
I think it's going to come. I believe it'll come and go, Joe.
Screw up, man. All right,
I believe it'll come and go. I believe it'll come and go. It'll wear off, just like a fix, I guess. Just like a fix, it'll wear off. And
but it's not. It's destroying our country, though. It's not. It isn't something that can wear off. The destruction of our country is happening. I mean, we once you lose a right, Bianchi, once one of our rights are written off, or they create a new law to suppress those rights, they're gone. They don't come back. You don't see them writing any new laws to enforce our rights, do you?
You have to strengthen your Constitution. Law, evils don't pay attention to laws. We see that they break them all the time. Look at what the Merrick Garland is doing at the DOJ. They break them all the time. They don't pay no attention to the laws unless it's right in their face. So you got to keep doing what you're doing. You got to keep fighting. You can't succumb. You got to call them out. And when you do that, you're letting them know that you are not subscribing nor joining on to their ideas and their movements.
But our people are dwindling in numbers, the people that think like us. We're becoming a few and farther between. I mean, okay, that's one answer. Keep fighting, obviously, we keep fighting. But our tactics aren't working. We're losing. We used to get, 10 years ago, if we were talking and have a conversation, which I think we were on this thing, things were a little bit better than what they are now. They're getting worse and worse. So we're losing. How can we change these trends?
Well, you got to keep on fighting, Joe. These states. I mean, I'm proud of the state of Louisiana. They're putting it to hell. The legislature just passed a bill saying that the state will not be under the terms of the World Health Organization. I mean, that's them saying that they're not going to do it. And other states are doing the same thing. That's where your power lies. Put it back like it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I sent you an email today. Did you get it?
You need to get people like yourself elected.
Yeah. Did you get my email today?
I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Oh, okay. I sent you an email about, remember how you told me to contact the ACLU or the NAACP member? And they wrote back to me, and I sent you a copy of it, what they said.
I'm gonna check it out. I imagine it's amusing.
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. Oh yeah.
No, but that's what we got to do. You know, people like yourself and I, and gunslinger and that, we got our own philosophy. Yeah, we're gonna fight against amongst each other, and wallow around in the mud and get black eyed and everything, but we still gonna lick our wounds and that, and we got to fight this evil, man. We know it's evil. Hell, anytime you got a philosophy out there to kill babies, you got women running around grabbing their stomach, shaking, I'm going to kill this bastard. You know, there's something wrong with them people.
Yeah.
I don't want my... And you got to keep your kids away, because if you don't keep your kids away from them, it's just like grabbing sand in a bucket with a hole in the bottom of it. If you put precious things in the bucket, then it's going to seep out through the hole. You got to fix that hole, keep everything away from it. I do. I try to.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You know,
I'm just trying to read the chat room here.
Telling the FBI agents that it's okay to use deadly force on that raid they done on Mar-a-Lago. What is he saying? You saying that the FBI agent is going to have shootouts with the Secret Service? That's what they're proposing. That little bastard is evil. He should have been gone. And I don't understand Congress are not moving fast in order to eliminate that sucker. And he's not the only one.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I like what you said about the abortion thing. It shows that people are insane. Women running around talking about, I'm going to kill baby. I mean, you know, what the hell? You know, I mean, abortion used to be hush-hush and only in extreme circumstances, and now it's just 60 million plus babies, 70, 80 million. It's my right. I have a right to do what I want with my body, but forget the life that's growing inside me. What kind of logic is that?
That is very disturbing. When you look at it, it is. It's disturbing. And then you like this player for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think it was, when he made that sort of commencement speech about women raising families and having a baby. He gets ridiculed for that.
I know. Crazy. Hey, did they fire him? Did they bench him? Or is he going to get traded? Or what's the deal with that? I mean...
It's no telling, Joe. I haven't followed up on it.
Like Tebow, right? Remember Tebow?
Surprised.
Tim Tebow?
Yeah.
He won't last too long.
Yeah.
You know, he won't get too... But Kaepernick, he's a hero, you know? I'm surprised they didn't bring him back as a quarterback. I'm just surprised.
And I'm going to tell you something else. The people that's been sitting around... See, somebody has to be sitting around at a meeting, and they're coming up with these concoctions. At some point in time, these people need to be labeled, and they need to be sought out and brought to a Nuremberg type of justice. Because that's what they're doing. They're trying to destroy this nation.
The world. The nation, the world, you know?
Well, see, this is the last bastion. This is the United States, the last bastion of hope. Always have been this shining light.
Yep.
And evil things come out the dark and head for that light. What is that light? I don't like that light. It's making my head hurt. It's hurting my eyes. I've got to destroy that light.
Yeah. That's true. I remember my great grandmother used to say, "Don't, when it got dark out, stay inside. Bad things happen at night." Keep the door locked. So that's how how older people were. So which she was right.
Yeah. So you got to try to get the message across in any way that you can, because everybody is in different areas of realization. Nobody comes from the same, because they come from different environments. They come from different upbringings, what they saw, witnessed, they've eating. So you got to deliver messages, a multitude of messages, as long as the multitude of messages are for the stabilization and the strength of this republic. That's what you got to keep preaching.
Well, we got this group obviously on the podcast network here that all stick together and listen, but there's some of us that aren't around all the time, and I'm starting to call them out. I noticed that they're not supporting the other shows like me. I'm always on everybody else's show trying to tell people to tune in. I tell my friends to tune in. I try to bring listeners to them. I've done it. And people, only they would know because they see their call boards, 336 numbers or whatever when they call in, or other numbers. I tell people to call in or, to support their podcast shows. But there's some of us, I'm not going to say any names. I don't want to start any arguments right now, but I'm starting to call them out slowly but surely. They're nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. Only their show, I noticed. That's what,
Well, people don't fall off because there's no action. Some people are looking for a different type of action. And if they don't find it, then they become emphatic. They just, nothing's going to happen. And they just go someplace else. That's what they do. Hey,
I don't want to shock them. I want to come up with solutions. I want to talk about the problems we face today and the solutions that we can do to change the things that we have in problems with today. I want to see some sort of type of political action where people are getting involved, sending out emails, contacting people that are out there in action, doing what they're doing. I know you're out there doing stuff. I know, like people like Donnie, the Conservative Nation Radio, him, other Sarge, I know is out there doing stuff, as a voice. So I know people are out there that are active, and other people that are always on all the podcast shows. The Alaskan, he's always joining in all the podcast shows. Boyd, so there's people that are here all the time. I see that, but there's others, like I said, that they may be seeking action, but I don't know. I think their interests are selfish, and I think that in the end, maybe they can't be trusted if the Republic was to call upon them, Just maybe. Some of them, you know what I mean? Just how I see it. Gunslinger, he's always here, So, there's others that we hear their voices pop up on only a certain show, and then they're no longer, and then they're not, what are they doing? I think they're just causing problems, and they're gossipers, and they're just there for the thrill, or the cheap thrill, or because they ain't got nothing to do. Me, I'm here because I'm trying to change things. I want to see things change. I'm not here to play games. I don't want to play cards with everybody. I don't want to tell stories about General Hospital. I don't want to talk about stupid crap. I want to laugh and giggle. I'm going to be serious about stuff. Have serious discussions. That's just how I think we got to do it. We can't be lax anymore. This isn't a game we're playing. This is our lives. Your children's lives. Your grandchildren's lives. What are we leaving them? I think this is serious business. At least.
Last week, I must have sent out at least 30 or maybe 40 emails to committees. Paula Davis, state rep, Franklin Fall, my state senator, and you have legislative you have committees on judicial committee. You got a committee on health and such and such and such. So we sent out and asked them to either support, and most of it is support, or be against certain bills that's being contemplated the legislative floor. And lo and behold, this stuff is working. Yeah, we
really
just those that's involved with Convention of States laws in Louisiana. You're talking about close to 45,000 members. So you have that type of response coming through, demanding that these representatives do this, that, and the other. Well, they got to listen.
Yeah,
and you got to have a strong state. That's what it's going to be about, I think, Joe. It's going to. You got to have strong states before you have a strong country.
Yeah. Maybe you're right. Maybe, yeah. Well, how about this? Like you talk about. Go ahead.
People can be volunteer to get in your polls, to be a watcher. And I'm dead serious on watching those drop boxes, set up lawn chairs with the cameras on tripods and video that drop box, video faces, video license plates. Somebody come walking up with a box. They ain't got a box of McDonald's in the damn thing they're going to drop in the box. They cheating.
Yeah. That's
and we
true.
got to understand that people that's caught cheating, they be punished because they're taken away from U.S. citizens. They're taken away from you and me.
Yeah. Well, speak of what, emails and stuff. Like I got GRNC here, Grassroots North Carolina. They hit them. Let's see here. This is about the register now pistol match to benefit GRNC. This is about the bills that they've put gun control laws. Our thanks again to those who stood up against this House bill that they tried passing here in North Carolina. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that people can get involved in. You're absolutely right, and stop this nonsense. Right here you got the corporate benefactors: Bear Creek Arsenal, Black Hawk International Security, Blue Ridge Marksmanship, C&E gun shows. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about there. Those people are no good. I wonder about some of these grassroots organizations. I wonder if they sell out down the road too sometimes. Right after an election. I wonder about these people. These groups that pop up.
When you have the type of economy that we live in, and then when you have the type of things that's going on to entice people, yes, they will sell out. They want part of the good, they consider. As Judases, if you want to call them by something, yes, they do exist.
Well, you're right. I mean, but hey, everybody can be out, but we don't need everybody's going and fighting all different types of battles. We need to stick to like one battle, conquer, win, and then go to another. What's this? Watching the watchers. Oh, yeah, you were just talking about that, monitoring the elections, watching the watchers. So that's a good group there.
Monitoring your election. You know what else is good too? Get your kids involved in shooting exercises.
Yeah.
Rifle clubs. I see where the Boy Scouts is having problems, and they want to change their name from Boy Scouts to something else that's less intimidating. But take your kids out. Don't be a part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do they want to change it to?
Gun clubs. Something.
I can only imagine the name they want to change it to.
Something that's less pronounced about gender is what they want to do. What they want to have is where transsexuals and homosexuals and so on can be part of the Boy Scouts.
Wow.
Then they're trying to spread
Everybody got something they want
to
add here on the phone lines? Press 1 now. Jump in because I'm getting ready to wrap up the show. Anybody got something they want to add here or something to say? Gunslinger, you still on the line? Anything you want to add here before the end? I know you might be on mute. Gunslinger? Gunslinger! Oh, I know his number's still there. His hand's still up, too, so. Gunslinger! Oh, well. Hopefully he didn't walk off someplace and he comes back and the show's ended. Anybody got something they want to say in the chat room? I'll read it off. I see the chat room still there. I see a couple other people on the phone line. Want to put your hands up? I'll get ready to wrap it up. Bianchi, anything else real quick? Get ready to wrap it up. I know tomorrow night
I'm very avid about working with those children, your kids, and making sure that they know the things that they're supposed to. I'm getting ready to enroll my grandson in a gun safety, situational shooting, tactical shooting, and then get him a weapon.
Yeah. As long as you comply with the laws.
When they come in contact with the police on things to say and things not to say, and we know that some of them assholes is crazy is shit too. So no, those are the things that we have to do. Can you imagine when they start seeing young people? See, it's one thing when your enemy look at you and they see an immediate target. But when they look at what the possibility that they got to deal with in the future, they don't like that because they know they ain't going to be around and they're not taking care of their business either.
You're right about that, man. They don't like that. They don't like us. Go try to hand out flyers at a high school.
Yeah.
They'll have the cameras there. The Board of Education will be there. The police will be there. Oh, yeah. They don't like that. Tainting the minds of the youth.
Well, that's one thing we can do. We can go out to the sports fields and hand them out. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's ways to get around them assholes.
Yeah, that's a good way to get around.
And then if you got your kids, let's think if you got your kid and 2 or 3 other kids on the team and they're talking the right stuff, then what do you think is going to happen to those who's not hearing? They don't want to get involved. So anyway, I'm gonna let you get prepared to close your show.
All right, man. Yeah. Close it up tonight. Gunslinger. Anyway, I guess that's about it. So hey, God bless the Republic. Thank you everybody for listening. I appreciate it. We had pretty quite a few people on the call line here tonight. I appreciate it. All right. Good night, everybody.
No weapons of mass destruction were found.
Are you kidding me? Do you buy that? There were.
I was 5 and he was 6. We rode on horses made of sticks. He wore black and I wore white.
Come on, let us shoot. Blair.
Bang, bang.
Hey, I need to get the brass to drop ramps. I got a wounded girl. We need to take the rest of mile. Oh, it's their fault for bringing their kids to a battle. That's right.
The main reason we went into Iraq at the time was we thought he had weapons of mass destruction. It turns out he didn't, but he had the capacity to make weapons of mass destruction. But I also talked about the human suffering in Iraq.
Hello, boys and girls. I have a special message for you from the President of the United States. I salute the boys and girls who are buying United States savings stamps and bonds, and they're giving important support to the cause of freedom and the men who fight for us in Vietnam.
Congress gave us this authority in August 1964 to do whatever may be necessary. That's pretty far-reaching. The sky is the limit.
As an American citizen, you have to respect our president, whether I like it or not. It's really not my decision, but I do respect my president, and I will support whatever decision he makes.
Music played and people sang. Just for me, the church bells rang.
Years from now, some of them may look back and ask themselves whether they've made the right choice, whether they've made the most of the opportunities they've been given. Together, we have the same mission. Over the course of your life, you will find that things are not always fair. You will find that things happen to you that you do not deserve and that are not always warranted. But you have to put your head down and fight. Never, ever, ever give up. Don't give in, don't back down, and never stop doing what you know is right. Nothing worth doing ever came easy. And the more righteous your fight, the more opposition that you will face. In your hearts are inscribed the values of service, sacrifice, and devotion. Now you must go forth into the world and turn your hopes and dreams into action. America has always been the land of dreams because America is a nation of true believers. When the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, they prayed. When the founders wrote the Declaration of Independence, they invoked our Creator 4 times. Because in America, we don't worship government, we worship God. It is why our currency proudly declares, "In God we trust." And it's why we proudly proclaim that we are one nation under God. The story of America is the story of an adventure that began with deep faith, big dreams, and humble beginnings. The next generation of American leaders. Never, ever give up. There'll be times in your life you'll want to quit. Never quit. Never stop fighting for what you believe in and for the people who care about you. Carry yourself with dignity and pride. Demand the best from yourself. The more people tell you it's not possible, that it can't be done, the more you should be absolutely determined to prove them wrong. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep
pushing ahead. You must keep pushing forward. And always have the courage to be yourself. America is better when people put their faith into action. Pray to God and follow His teachings. Today, each of you begins a new chapter as well. When your story goes from here, it will be defined by your vision, your perseverance, and your grit. You will build a future where we have the courage to chase our dreams no matter what the cynics and the doubters have to say. You will have the confidence to speak the hopes in your hearts and to express the love that stirs your souls. As long as you have pride in your beliefs, courage in your convictions, and faith in God, then you will not fail. As long as America remains true to its values, loyal to its citizens, and devoted to its Creator, then our best days are yet to come. May God bless the class of 2017. May God bless the United States of America. And I just want to let you know that God blesses you. And I want to just say, you are special in every way. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.